Sharma, Chief Executive Officer with CarTrade Tech, joins us now. Mr. Sharma, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Is there a comeback or is there a boom in the entire used car market?
Good morning, Nikunj. So I wouldn't call it a comeback because used car industry never existed before really. It has been an industry which is quite ignored in this country, whether it is institutions, government, or let's say general public, if I put everything together. And there's been structural reasons for it. It is not by fluke, it's more like by design how things have been. So I would call it the homecoming for the used car industry now. Multiple reasons, I'll talk about that, but it's more like this is where used car industry is now going to grow with everything in sight. And they're going to be, of course, it starts with demand like any industry. Once you have demand on the table, people, the stakeholders, the industry, everybody starts participating in, they start investing into it. And once you start investing, you get into a, excitement, exuberance, which takes you to the next level. That's what is happening to used car industry. Used car industry across the world has been phenomenally bigger, somewhere around 2 to 4 times of the new car industry. India has been lagging behind. It has been largely about 1:1. In a couple of years, let's say last couple of years, it might have gone up to 1.2 to 1, 1.3 to 1. So we have massive opportunity to grow from here.
Is there a change in terms of preference in the used car market from luxury to non-luxury, whether it's a SUV or whether it's an entry-level SUV or whether it's a sedan? The point I'm trying to understand is that there is this whole view that in the used car market, you'll only see uptick happening in luxury because the first-hand car, luxury cars are expensive. It makes perfect sense for somebody who wants to buy the brand, but buy a car which is 2-3 years old. Is the same factor now being seen in affordable SUV segment, entry-level SUV segment, or sedan market?
No, I wouldn't call it like that. Of course, the luxury segment is growing far bigger than, let's say, the other ones, but we understand it very well that Indian luxury segment of cars is like literally a couple of percentage of the entire industry. So the growth has come across board. And I'll tell you a couple of things. When the pandemic happened, let's say pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, if I do a comparison, Carvale data tells us that we grew about 48% in GFM 21 quarter over the year before that. And it was ever highest. This growth was largely coming from lower to mid segments. So for example, your cars under 4 lakhs, cars under 10 lakhs, they saw the majority of growth. And even luxury and let's say the mid size, which is probably like D segment, E segment, they also grew in a similar proportion. But the biggest demand came from the lower segments. Fast forward July, August, September quarter, which is 2021 again, we saw the peak. The post-second COVID, we saw the peak here, wherein the demand even got greater. It got a little more normalized, and luxury started to show a better demand. Now, what you said makes perfect sense that, of course, people can buy luxury cars at cheaper rate, but this is true across board. You, let's say, move away from about 5 lakh plus cars, you go a little above, and you start seeing depreciations which are quite lucrative for a used car buyer. You buy a car today, and I'm not really talking about 2022, but in general, you buy a car today and you take it out, let's say, of showroom, and 10 days later you want to sell it, the car would have already depreciated by 10 to 15%, even like a Maruti or a Hyundai or Tata car, the mass, let's say, cars. The luxuries will probably depreciate about 20-25%. Now, what has happened in this particular year, especially where we are sitting right now, I heard the report that prices have gone up by 10 to 15%. But that is true for the new car market as well. There's no supply there, and the car prices have gone significantly up. Now, that is coming down to used cars as well, because since there's no supply, there is no, whatever you are getting, since there's no supply, if I'm not really able to buy a new car, I'm also not selling my existing car, which means the supply of used cars in the used car market is also low, which means the prices have gone up there as well. Now, this is phenomenon across board, Nikunj, across board, not just luxury. Luxury sees I mean, it's of course very lucrative, and I think there is a bit of economic shift somewhere. Probably rich have become richer, and I think I wouldn't comment on that because I'm not an expert. But clearly, across world, we've seen what do you say, not just in used but in new luxury car. What do you say, purchase has gone up. We saw a report, let's say last year, Rolls-Royce had the biggest ever year in the history for them. I think that is coming down to India as well and the used car market and luxury in general.
Understand, given that there's so many factors that are fueling this, that preference for personal mobility, more spending power, less waiting period, do you believe that this is a trend here to stay for the long haul? And also walk us through the kind of demand trends that you're witnessing in some of the smaller tier 2, 3 cities.
So demand is going to stay, provided I'll put a couple of caveats to that. Why people buy used cars or used products? Let's understand that the three predominant reasons in my head. One is trust. As long as you have trust on the table, let's say people really can buy a used product with full assurance that nothing will go wrong with it and I can use it for a considerable amount of time. And the used product, so-called used, let's say car, is not really terribly used, but it is mildly used, gently used. Second is selection. I should be able to get, or you should be able to get a car which you want. That particular body type, that particular color, those many kilometers done, less than so many years of driving, let's say first owner, automatic transmission, petrol or diesel, you should be able to get that. If we go out and try to buy a car and then let's say we get only what they have to sell vis-a-vis what we want, it wouldn't really fly. And the third, of course, is value. When I pay 100 rupees to buy a product, I'll buy a new one. People buy used because they see value, a 30% of the MRP, 40% of the MRP, and the product looks as good as new. Now, for this to happen, two things in my head, and we as CarTrade believe should happen. One, some kind of, let's say, policies and stuff from the government, non-government agencies, which would be, for example, the developed world has a phenomenon called lemon law, which means if you buy a used car, which has been promised to in a certain way and you buy it and it goes off terribly, you're protected in a certain way. India doesn't have any of this. Now, of course, whatever government can do and will do, the second thing lies on the players who operate in, and which I see a big change in last year, let's onwards, which is a product like Upshore, which we have, and the other, let's say, companies out there, which are putting a 7-day money-back guarantee. If you take a car, don't like it, return it. A 1-year free warranty in case anything goes wrong with the car, it would be repaired, parts would be replaced, etc. And so many other things. Used car finance. You look at, let's say, even nationalized big banks, they steer away from giving loans to used cars, owing to the fact that there's no understanding of the right price, there's no understanding of the consumer. Sometimes they are subprime, sometimes because this is generally perceived that used car buyer is not able to afford a new car, and hence that should not be the phenomenon. As long as these two are taken care of, one, let's say probably government, second, companies like ourselves and industry in general, the demand would stay. People would be happy to pay, let's say 30-40% of the new car price and take a car which is as good as new. The second thing you asked about, I'm sorry, Aisha, I forgot. What did you ask about the second one?
And I had asked about trends within the tier 2, 3 cities.
Tier 2 through 3
Metro
cities.
versus non-metro, essentially. Yeah.
So Carvale is a pan-India platform wherein we see trends in general, let's say across board. We get about 1,400 towns people coming to us, and let's say, so largely I'll tell you one trend which we saw until July, August, September. The trend was phenomenal in terms of demand across board. Tier 1s was slightly bigger, Tier 2, Tier 3 was slightly lower. I would say about 10-15% lower than the Tier 1. But this particular quarter, which is gone by JFM, we saw a slight decline on the buying side, which came on the back of supply. Supply got corrected by about 15%. And that's where I see a bit of challenge. But rural Tier 2, Tier 3 is right behind the Tier 1s in terms of.
Right, so that's what the trends are looking like in the used car segment. It is certainly seeing a pickup in activity. Long waiting list if you want to get a brand new car, also more expensive. So the cheaper options working out to be faster and more lucrative. Thank you so much for joining us live today on the market. That's CarTrade for you. And now we're going to touch base with the top management of Mahindra Finance with the MD and VC, Mr. Ramesh Iyer, live on the channel. Mr. Iyer, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Well, since we were talking about second-hand cars and the used market, I thought I'll begin my interview with you for M&F Finance. How has the vehicle business been doing? We've seen the channel checks are talking about a big pickup activity when it comes to the hatchbacks and the SUV category in particular.
So I think, the second-hand car demand is very, very high. And we see people wanting to buy a second-hand car. I think it comes at the back of two or three things, I guess. One is, there is non-availability of the new vehicle. There's a delay in availability of the new vehicle. So if people want a car, they may prefer to go and buy in for a second-hand car. Second is, for some of the segment of the customer, I think the new car price is very, very high. And if the use is very limited, maybe they're looking at a pre-owned vehicle. So I think the demand is definitely high, and the demand is also at the back of the supply is very, very weak. And the supply is weak probably because, last whole year, the financiers repossessed not many vehicles. So therefore, they are not putting in too many vehicles to sell out. Second is with the new vehicle non-availability, the exchange programs are going slow, and therefore the supply has been impacted. Put these two together, I think we believe that the demand will hold on, and it's very, very high.
So demand is high, but sir, going forward, are you expecting demand destruction? There's Mengai, there's inflation, which is now at play. Cost of funds will also be going up. We've already seen the surprise move by the RBI last week.
No, I think that's the reason why pre-owned vehicle will do even better, right? I mean, if the cost is going up, the vehicle price will go up. And people would probably think, should I invest in a new vehicle, or if a good second-hand vehicle is available, is that suffice my purpose? So it's all depending on the use and the affordability for individual. We do find new segments of customers coming in. I think we're seeing some of the two-wheeler guys graduating to a smaller pre-owned vehicle. I think all of this is what is driving the demand, and I see this demand will continue because the price is something that people will put in only if they can afford, obviously, and therefore they will compare with the new vehicle as they look at a pre-owned vehicle. And today we shouldn't forget that the pre-owned vehicles are not really very, very old vehicle. They are all 3-year-old vehicle, 2-year-old vehicle. So therefore they're all well-maintained vehicles, and therefore people do see it as a good buy. So we definitely believe that the demand will hold on.
The outlook then in terms of the average ticket size for loans, and how you're also looking at the growth for loans, given the fact that in the used car segment, hatchback, that continues to dominate in terms of volumes.
Hello, I missed you in between.
Was asking what the average ticket size is for the loans?
No, so the ticket sizes are around 2 lakh, 2.5 lakh, 3 lakh, max go up to 4-5 lakhs. We are into the small segment. We are not into the luxury segment of pre-owned vehicle financing, since we do a lot of activity in the semi-urban rural market. And there the requirements are around 2 to 4 lakhs kind of a range.
Okay, now typically when interest rates they go higher, the second-hand finance rates will also go higher. Then comes this whole question of affordability. How sensitive is the second-hand car market in terms of an interest rate hike? I mean, the reason why you're buying second-hand car is because you do not want to either buy or you cannot afford to buy a first-hand car.
No, I mean, one has to look at it as the gap between a new vehicle buying rate and the second-hand vehicle buying rate, right? So if the gap of interest rate today is, let's say, 2% or 3%, I think they would continue to remain. I don't think only the pre-owned vehicle rate will go up and the new vehicle interest rate will not. So therefore, that's the first thing. Second is, imagine that if somebody is putting in a 3 lakh of rupee, and if 0.5% interest was to go up, 0.5% interest on 3 lakh rupees is $1,500 for a year. So that's not going to really decide whether one should buy or not buy. I think the second-hand vehicle buy comes from two angles. One, how good is the car and how well is the price that you can negotiate for it, and what's your real use of the vehicle. I mean, if you're going to use the vehicle, for a long distance on a very regular basis, people would prefer for a new vehicle because you don't want a higher maintenance coming up again. So normally you will find second-hand vehicle use is a very limited use where it's not a very high maintenance. And therefore, my personal belief is, 0.5% increase in rate should not tilt the demand.
One parallel, if I may draw, we always look at developed markets and especially United States to understand trends. If a trend has happened in the United States, it will come back to developing markets like India. But in the second-hand vehicle business, US and developed countries have very large markets. Unfortunately, we don't have such a large market, and that's not a yesterday's trend. That's been from last 7, 8, 10 years. The second-hand car market in India was supposed to explode, was supposed to grow, but the size is not very large. It is growing, but it is nowhere close to what was anticipated.
Sorry, I'm missing you again. What's your closing question?
My question is, the second-hand car market in India, if I develop it, what trends are there in the developed economies, let's say like Europe or United States? It is not such a large and a vibrant market. Why is that?
No, I think one of the reason is availability of a good car, right? It's only now that you have organized players who trade in vehicle, they kind of service the vehicle, maintain the vehicle, offer even extended warranty on the vehicle. I think those trends are just about coming in. I mean, if you look at even 5 years back or so, vehicles were not as well maintained. Documentations were a challenge in this vehicle. One was not sure about the RC transfers, the tax implications, all of that. I think all that is behind us. Very clearly, the documents are very clean. It's an insured vehicle. It's a well-maintained vehicle, extended warranty available. Price discovery is very well. And people are also not using the vehicle for very long before they can sell. So people are also exchanging it in 3 or 4 years. So the quality of the asset has gone up. So I would think that now everything is in place for this market to really explode. And second is it's been a very, very urban kind of a market for long. I think now we are seeing it go deeper into the pocket because earlier.
We'll wrap that up then. That's Mr. Iyer talking about what the impact of the growth trends have been for Mahindra Finance and in particular as well for the used vehicles.